This is Ed in San Diego, and welcome back to Global TV Talk Show. This is a live broadcast. It's being recorded for extensive subsequent distribution. They call it streaming. In other words, free access, 365, 724 worldwide. So we're doing this because I'm trying to build a network constantly, and having people like yourselves who are so well qualified in your respective fields with deep knowledge and willingness to share this with me and the audience. This will augment your own audience using my audience that I have on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and even X and globalbusinessnews.net. I have to say, though, it's mostly LinkedIn and YouTube, and the subsequent distributions through reconnections uh, and Substack kind of distribution is unknown. That there's no quantification. But the typical audience for a program like this going forward, the number audience views will reach pretty close to 1 million. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to sit and watch the whole program, though. It's very difficult. But people will be interested because the topic is so current, strengthening international business relationships despite the geopolitical environment that's going on now. Um, Joseph, I've asked you to be involved and consider making a brief mini keynote, as I call it, showing some slides on my screen share. I've asked Philip, I've asked John, I've asked Carolina as well. So we're going to have a series of brief mini keynotes, and each followed by some discussion. And so if people have to jump off or leave, that's quite all right. We're going to continue recording, so we have it all on tape, as they call it. And then for subsequent views, uh, I will redistribute the audio and the two camera views. One camera view is called gallery, and that's what you're looking at now. In other words, everybody on screen at once in a small Hollywood Square kind of environment. And then the other camera view within the integrated system that I have here is speaker facial close-ups. And Joseph is going to be looking at us, so be careful how you look. and we'd like to I'd like to get your feedback, Joseph, about am I looking honest and trustworthy this morning? Or for you
As
and then this afternoon.
as always, Ed, as always.
Oh, bless you. And of course, Carolina is always wonderful to look at. So I really appreciate you being with us. And so, does this format work for everybody? Okay. So, so Carolina, would you please take the lead here and upload whatever slides you have into my screen share and introduce your specific theme and topic. And you have 8.5 to 10 minutes. I'll clock watch, and so we can go a little longer probably, but then there'll be discussion, and so we're not trying to limit people's time. We're trying to get people to have the blessing of your wisdom in this short space. Now, before we get going, I will send each of you the raw footage, and from the raw footage, I will give the okay for you to cut it up. Okay, you can take out your own um, session, if you will, and then reuse it on your own space out. Just give me credit that you've been on the TV show. That's all I care about. And I want you to have the benefit of your time and your effective messaging. Okay. All right, Carolina, please self-intro yourself again. You've been uh, you didn't speak English and you went to Washington for some reason to learn how to speak English, and now you speak it beautifully, and you teach it, correct?
That's correct. And I want to thank you for this opportunity, first of all. And this is an amazing time where I always, when I participate in these meetings, I live this meeting transform. There's always something we learn, something we exchange. So it's an honor to be with each and every one of you this morning. So as Ed said, I'm Carolina Gomez. I work as a mentor of high performing professionals nowadays around the world. I help them with English, but also with some other things that help me throughout these years. I work for many, many years in travel industry in more than 10 countries. And what I've seen so far that brought a lot of results to my colleagues, to myself, and teams is not about having the perfect language or the perfect English, but the connection to people. This is what really impacted me, and I bring nowadays to my students. So Ed, can I share the presentation now?
Yes, please.
All right, let's do this. So let me find my window here.
Okay, screen share is open.
Okay. Just 1 second, guys. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
It's coming up. Okay, there you are. CQ and corporate English, the dual code of the global leader.
This is the framework that I've been working on and applying with my clients, combining corporate English plus the cultural quotation, so they can navigate throughout their careers. And let me tell you here a little story to start. Those are two brilliant Brazilian employees. They went to work for foreign companies, and they had the same level of English, the same technical expertise, but being in a different country, one of them really was able to connect to people, really was able to listen and lead with confidence in this company. The other professional couldn't learn about the culture, felt isolated, didn't connect, and after a few months, she returned back to the original country. So, what we see about this is two people with the same skills, with the same level of English, but one of them only could master what really helped her navigate throughout this the company, right, and connect to people. So basically, what I bring in the course is okay, going a little bit further than technical skills. Everybody, when we look at each other, the first thing we can see is the top of the iceberg, right? That is, how much do you know about your area, your vocabulary, your technical knowledge. But what is under the surface, which is really, really important also, is how do you listen to others? How do you learn about their culture, their background? How do you adjust your message? How do you connect with people? And I think that working this and working on being present and really connecting brings out the authority, right? How people perceive my clients and they can act in their positions. So I brought together this cultural quotient and language, which is going over the linguistic context, working on the message, working on the leadership language, and doing this in a holistic way, right? We also consider in the classes how we use language, in which context are they? Is it a formal, a consultative, or authority register that they need to apply in the moment? If we have a professional in a meeting trying to lead a group and he starts a sentence saying, may I suggest this and that, it's going to be totally different than someone that really says now or states what they really need in this moment. So, guys, we work in the message too. The message is very important considering the audience, where is people from. So the current situation that everyone in the table can understand, regardless the background, if it is someone from Brazil, from Germany, from the United States, that this situation can be clear, present a challenge that resonates globally, solution, benefits. Basically, applying this framework to presentations allow my clients to get results, and I've seen multiple times like how they can get promotions and be indicated for opportunities in the company. So bringing the leader up, the leader that is within them, is not only about helping them with the language, but actually bringing all these skills that they have inside, and they will let them lead their teams. So of course, we go over different ways to agree and disagree in different situations. Some practical tools that we use in the course is how to make the 30 seconds pitch, that they can use in an elevator, over a coffee, basically answering what do you do, and that they can do this in a very professional way, clear way, meeting dynamics, and then email to the team. Sometimes small changes in the email is going to create a big impact. For example, we always get emails for meetings, right? That could be like Monday meeting or group meeting. But if we change this title to collaboration meeting, just that word, collab meeting, when I receive this meeting, this email, I see that invitation like in a different way. Like, okay, I have to collaborate here. There is something I can bring to this table. So that changes the whole perception of these emails too. And this is what we work. So basically, professionals that understand that it's not only about having perfect English, but having someone next to them that can help identify the blind spots, correct them in the moment, or even share from my experience these things that will help us connect with people in many situations, will correct the linguistic patterns, accelerate their evolution, and at the end of the day, you can work on these skills and be, someone that is known, like, okay, someone that had an impact, that made changes, that transform a division, or maybe just one person that works in a foreign company, but not having a lot of impact. So this is what I do. This is my mission nowadays. Try to help coworkers, colleagues, professionals that, like myself, when they couldn't speak the language very well, and that could bring up what is the potential inside. So Ed, thanks for the time. Thanks everybody, and I'm open to questions. Okay.
First of all, congratulations on that. We could see that you have a lot of depth there, and we don't have a lot of time. But I saw that there are some really meaningful short phrases there. So the concept here is to make people feel comfortable within that stressful environment where they're trying to understand what how to feel comfortable, how not to embarrass themselves, perhaps, and how to communicate. Philip Berry has years of multinational experience, and I've asked him to do his talk too. But first, Philip, please comment, add to what Carolina was talking about how to move from the first part to the next part to the concluding part of getting people to understand what there is to do.
What I like about Catalina's presentation is that when I think about executives that I have worked with around the world, and I can see how they operate at different levels, especially when they happen to come from one country and then they're going to another environment. to work in that. And so being able to move from one of the levels that Catalina outlined to another is extremely important from the standpoint of establishing your leadership credentials. So I like that. And in fact, when I think about people who I have career planned, from one country to another, expatriates. And when I talk about expatriates, I've worked in over 60 countries, right? So I'm not just talking about a person who just came from the United States and then is going abroad for a while and then they come back to the United States. I'm talking about a person maybe who started out in Poland and then they went to Chile. I'm talking about a person who was in Guatemala and then moved over to China. And so I think that the outline that Catalina positioned is extremely important when you talk about developing an individual's leadership skills. So very, 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 very nice presentation there from this
Thank you
standpoint.
very much for that depth. So we're going to go through this real quick, and then we'll move on to the next presentation and so on. Ron Cooper, please comment and on Carolina's mission and your take on that.
No, I think Carolina, everything you said is right on target. I'm curious, do you feel welcome and totally appreciated in the United States, even though you're not physically here? But do you see a difference in the maybe U.S. culture of acceptance? Do we need to work through anything such as that?
Carolina.
Yes. So I've lived in the United States for 2 years and
In Washington, right?
in Washington, D.C. when I
Yeah.
was about 20 years old. And then I returned many times for work purposes, right? And I have to tell you that I felt very welcomed. I felt very welcomed. It's a place that I really appreciate. I learned so many things there. I think every place that we go, every country, is an opportunity to learn, to improve, to bring things to our journey that we don't have in our country, right? So I really feel welcomed. I felt welcomed in the United States.
No, that is good to know. And I would hope that wherever we go, we have that reciprocal mindset of opportunity to learn from and through each other. When we have that kind of a culture, we are going to advance.
Yeah, Rigoberto, Mexico City, welcome. Please comment on Carolina's talk and bring in your own perspective from Mexico.
Yeah, well, nice to meet you, Carolina. I just started a new position working for a travel company, and I just hear that you're working, you came from the travel industry, and it's very interesting, that industry, and probably I kind of presume that's why you have this kind of international mindset, because the travel industry is super dynamic, everything is changing every day, and you need to adapt constantly. So nice to meet you, Carol. Well, I definitely take the last part of your presentation, which is, I don't remember exactly, but it was saying like, you are still a Brazilian, or you are still a Brazilian leading a global company, or something like that. So I take that because it really resonates with me in the sense that we don't need to forget who we are. And sometimes this is something that happens when we adapt to another culture or we learn a new language. We tend to forget what we learned in the past, but this is still part of us. So the way you are putting it, and then the way we are mixing and learning new things, that's perhaps makes the enhancement to the next level of understanding different cultures. So thank you, Carol.
Yeah, thank you, Ron, for your message. Great to have you involved. Let's go to Dublin. Joseph, welcome.
Thank you very much, Ed. Excellent presentation, Carolina. And I love the fact that you place an emphasis on culture, because it's one thing to know the technicalities of a language or the technicalities of a role, but when we move into a different environment, we have to understand culture. I've seen so many problems arise because we come from where we're coming from and we assume other people are the same. And it's so often a gross mistake. I know, for example, when I moved to Israel many years ago, coming from a very laid-back Irish environment, and I encountered Israelis who were very in your face, very direct. And I don't mean that in any negative way, it's just how they were. I had to adapt. It wasn't a case of them. I needed to adapt. I was in their environment. Same when I moved to Germany. I had to adapt. I had to tone down my expression because when I first presented to a German audience, it was all expressionless. And if you go in there and you're all very happy and beaming smiles, they think you're not serious. So they just discredit you immediately. So it's when and I'm sure Philip will have experienced this on many occasions, when you're going into a new environment, you have to prepare yourself. You have to understand about the culture. And if you do get it, and if you respect the culture and you make the effort to blend in and to fit, not with and still retaining your values, obviously, then you're far more likely to be accepted far more quickly. So excellent. Thank you, Carolina.
Later in this program, Joseph, what will be your presentation theme?
Communication. Just general communication within conversation, within discussion. I've basically got 4 short slides. I won't be talking about my usual topics of reading faces and body language, but again, it fits with that idea of culture.
Well, I'm going to have to ask you questions about reading faces. You got all these wonderful faces here from backgrounds so different. Thank you very much, John Verrico. Welcome again.
Thank you. Carolina, thank you. You had hit on some really, really important things, and I don't know if people caught that because you talked about when you talked about communication, and I really love this because I was taking notes like mad while you were doing this. But you hit on some really important things that I actually wanted to address briefly as well. And one of the things was our word choices when we communicate, and how saying certain types of words can change the meaning of what we're trying to get across. And if we're not aware of those cultural differences and how people use words in certain ways, we can really miss the boat. And I think probably from the American perspective, I'll tell you right now, we make a lot of mistakes that way because we use words that we think add specific strength or meaning, or we're always also so conscious about how we caveat things when we say them so as we don't come across maybe too strong or whatever, that we don't realize how we're coming across. And the biggest problem I think we have here is that we talk too fast and we don't give people the opportunity to process what we've said. Even if there's no language barrier, even if there's no cultural barrier, we just talk too fast, and sometimes we miscommunicate because of that, because we don't give people the opportunity to learn from what we're saying. So
Fascinating. John, you, for the sake of our viewing audience out there, US and around the world, you worked for many years, 40 plus years in the federal government, and you just retired. And now you're writing books and doing TV talk shows, right? And other things.
And other things, yeah, because I have helium arm and I can't stop going, oh sure, I'll get involved with that. I'm available. I can help you. Yeah, there we go. My wife teases me all the time. I have yet to learn the meaning of the word no, but but yes, I worked in government, and saying it out loud just frightens me because I realize that makes me realize how old I am. But yeah, for 42 years, I worked in the military and government in communications and helping people to communicate better with each other and with the public.
This is great. Philip, the stage is yours.
Oh,
About
okay.
CQ.
All right. Well, let me
So just as a word to catch up while you're doing that,
Mm.
Philip was on a previous show where he did a brief presentation on CQ, and I asked him to join this because we've got such a request for being involved in subsequent editions. Here we are today, and so we're going to do it again in September, and we'll add more people to the party.
Okay, thank you very much, Ed. So what I'll do is I will go through a few slides that I have. Okay, so the first thing I want to say, and it's very important, especially from the standpoint of leadership development, because I look at this CQ piece from the standpoint of leadership development. What happens when individuals are in an organization, and so the first thing that comes to one's mind is the IQ of a person. And so IQ is one stage, but it is not the thorough level that one needs to operate from if you're going to be impactful. And so what happens is that you move individuals abroad and then they begin to develop their EQ, which is their emotional intelligence and relationship skills and how they're relating with others. But that also is nice, but is not enough. And that's why I feel that being able to be globally competent cross-culturally is the key to being impactful as you're working in different cultures and as you work in other work with people who are from different places. And there are four levels that I look at this from when you talk about the whole area of CQ. One is that one needs to be able to have what I call CQ drive. One needs to have a motivation and confidence that they can work and adapt cross-culturally, as opposed to coming with this, if you're coming from America with this American state of mind, and because I am quote unquote smart, because I happen to have a degree in a certain area, and therefore I don't have to do anything else to prove myself. But what needs to happen is that one needs to be able to have an intrinsic motivation to engage with different cultures, the confidence in working cross-culturally, and also the resilience that comes when you're faced with cultural challenges. But that's the second element. The second element really has to do with what I call knowledge, your understanding of, matter of fact, Catalina talked about the knowledge that people can bring to a certain situation, and technical knowledge. And unfortunately, many people stay at a point of technical knowledge, but they don't move to CQ knowledge and understanding what the differences and similarities are. And so when we talk about people speaking fast, matter of fact, there are probably different countries, different parts of even the United States, where people have a different focus on terms of how they talk and the way they relate with each other and their interpersonal capabilities. But one needs to expand this when you are trying to get an understanding of different cultures, and also when you're looking at business practices. You can't just operate from the standpoint of, well, this works in the US and therefore it's going to work anywhere else. That's not the way one should operate. One needs to operate with an understanding of what is the impact that this can have, this policy change, this new product that I'm developing in a certain area. And if you can move from that to an element of CQ strategy, and that is being able to plan strategies that across that take into account multiple interactions and working with individuals who you can mentor and develop so that way they can be strong. Maybe they were strong in the country that they were in, but can you develop a strategy so that way they can be effective and interactive in any country that they're going to? So when you talk about moving, maybe from Ireland to Israel, well, how can we begin to develop the type of strategy so that way we can monitor any assumptions that we might have about the engagement and also adjust the type of thinking that we have as we are working in different areas, different countries. And then the last element of CQ that's important, is to be able to really adapt appropriately, so that way in a verbal and non-verbal manner, you and your communication styles, and we're going to have a presentation, I guess, later on communication styles, and we could spend a lot of time on that, but it's really important to adapt your leadership so that way you are impactful in a certain country that might be different from the country that you came from. Your home country and your host country is different. And to be able to see how they're different is an extremely important characteristic when it comes down to being able to have overall global impact. There's a lot more on these, but I just wanted to just lay out this particular turf and stay from the standpoint that if you're going to be a high potential, highly impactful letter with high CQ, you have to be able to understand when you go into another country from the country that you're in, to embrace the fact that there's ambiguity and complexity in those relationships. And above all, one needs to be able to build trust across different stakeholder groups. One of the things that I have seen is that many individuals, they omit the factor of trust building as they go into other areas. They feel, well, I'm the expert in this area, and therefore people ought to they come with the authoritative context as their operating mode, as opposed to coming in from a standpoint that I need to walk in your moccasins and learn a little bit, and I need to be humble, and therefore try to gain your trust in that area. And I need to adapt my communication and my management style, so that way it fits, and understanding different types of cultural traits that one brings, and understanding that the traits that may have gotten you up to a higher level in the country that you're in will not keep you going as you're going into another place, unless you say, well, what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to learn instead of just going in and teaching others. What I want to do is I want to be more curious about the way you are operating in another country. So that way I begin to be accepted more as a person who can help to move the product, move the business, and move the organization forward. And understanding all of these from the standpoint of any standards that you put in place, with understanding of the local sensitivities, really increases your profile, your CQ profile as a leader. And if you can do a number of these factors, then you are going to be able to bring about more performance. You're going to be able to increase retention, and also you're going to be able to build profitability. But it's only if you're able to move from a standpoint of drive, knowledge, strategy, and action, and incorporate all of those in your operating stance, that you're going to be able to do that. There are a number of companies that have done that very well. Two of them I've worked in, at Procter and also at Colgate. And Tata, I want to build in another. There are probably a few other companies that I could put in there. But the one thing that these companies have, all three of them, when they're going somewhere else, is that they try to integrate their product development with the local customer approach to buying products, and understanding of that, and an appreciation of that. In fact, I remembered when I was the VP of HR for Colgate Europe, and what happened was that we put together a team, and so instead of saying, well, this team is going to operate out of the UK, and then we're going to launch it with an understanding of the marketplace by looking at Italy, and then what we'll do is understand quantitatively how we're going to approach things by looking at Germany. Well, we put together a team with all of those thoughts up front, so that way we were able to have effective product launch, and we were able to shorten the cycle time that we have from that standpoint. And when I look at the last slide that I want to I want to show you in this area is that there are 4 areas and strategies that people need to use to enhance their global impact. And that is that having leadership immersion programs, that help people as they're moving from one assignment to another, so that and having it structured in a way so that way an individual is always in a learning situation. And then we need to have inclusive talent development, so that way we're integrating the type of technical knowledge that an individual would be learning, along with their ability to increase how they are operating with others. And have that, and we need to have a pipeline that really reflects those global markets and also the customer demographics. And decision making should always be localized, not just meaning that you look at the region that you're in, look at the country that you're in, and so that way you can understand from the standpoint of launching a product and launching a service exactly how that works for you. And all of these need to be coordinated with cross-cultural collaboration processes and tools. And matter of fact, whatever tool we happen to bring in place, we need to be sure that it has cross-cultural application. So those are the main things. There's a lot more to this, but those are the main things that I wanted to talk about and within the time that we have, and maybe we could have some discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want you to, I'll wait till you take that down and then I'll show you this.
Okay.
I'm trying to hold it back so it doesn't blur.
You
Okay.
have to hit the stop share.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay,
my
so
fingers sometimes aren't, trying to find it. There you go.
so Philip and I have known each other a long time, many different events, occasions. And one time he told me when he was at Colgate-Palmolive, and that's what this is, an ad. But if you see the headline on that ad, then making a world of difference together, and it's about Colgate, of course. And that's what Philip was just talking about, is bringing people, for instance, Phil, you told me at one time, more than once, stories about taking talent from a family-oriented countries such as Romania or Guatemala and transferring back and forth in order to build talent, to develop talent for Colgate. And of course, to develop themselves, but Colgate is developing a wonderful personnel policy and program, and that's what Philip Berry did. Oh, I can't see it. Oh, it's too bad. This is the front cover of a magazine that I published in 2006. Darn it. Oh, there. I'm trying to hold it up. Anyway, Philip's on the front cover, and Colgate bought an ad on the back, thank God. But it was all about exactly what he was just talking about. I'm going to get that available to you because it's really fascinating. Not only is Philip a young man in that picture, but it's the same, I got to tell you, it's the exact same energy and message all these years later. So thank you, my friend. I don't mean to embarrass you.
Thank you. No, it's all good.
Yeah. So Carolina, let's tie together your presentation with Philip's from your view, and then we'll go to Joseph. So what you experienced personally in Washington, D.C., and now what you're doing, and what your slides conveyed is almost an exact same approach, different styles, of course, and different depth, but it's the same approach that Philip just went through in great detail. And, too bad we couldn't do more time, but Philip, please come back and do more longer in the next edition or one after. But we're all going to see these slides on the video, and then you could study them, of course. So Carolina, would you like to comment on what Philip just went into in that detail, supplementing what you had started with?
Yes, I would love to comment actually. what he mentioned about building trust, one of the traits of leaders, right? Because this is one answer I get, unfortunately, from most people. I ask the question like, what was a good leader that you had? Or what do you remember of a good leader or a leader that you had in your life? And the answer I get the most is, I didn't have one, or I didn't, and that's very unfortunate because, as Philip amazingly explained, building trust. And we only open up to people when we feel that the other person is not going to be judging us or, criticizing, and especially a leader, to be able to get results, to be able to help this other person to develop. If there is not trust, then it's not going to work. So I love everything, Philip, but this really resonated with, what I experience and what I see with my clients and my coworkers. Yeah.
Philip?
No, I think as I was listening to Catalina and her talk, and I think that, and I talk about developing people cross-culturally, that's those type of skills and that sensitivity and that awareness, is something that throughout my career, that I have worked with individuals on cultivating and developing and strengthening. So thank you for those comments.
Ben, let's go to Joseph, anticipating an intuitive and wonderful talk. I love listening to you.
Thank you. That was excellent, Philip. Absolutely excellent. And I know there's so much more depth you can go into. There's so many topics. You probably covered 80-90% of what I'm about to say anyway, but in a much more elegant way than I can typically manage. So thank you for that. Yes, just following up on what Carolina was saying there about trust. I mean, if we look at consistent reports from Adelson, Gallup, McKinsey, the number of leaders who assume that they have cultivated trust is way beyond the numbers of employees who feel that they can trust their leaders. So there's a massive gap there. And that's a huge issue, the importance of cultivating trust. And it's often overestimated as to how much trust actually exists. And then you talked about the importance of adaptability, humility, curiosity. They're all areas I'm going to be mentioning here, but they're so important if we want to understand the culture. And again, it's part of the essential preparation before we go somewhere, that we have to take ourselves, get out of our own way really, and prepare ourselves to meet the people where they're at, and then take it forward. But if we don't meet them where they're already at and their culture is already established, we're just queuing ourselves up for mistakes.
So, Joseph, do companies insist that the spouse and family learn about all this before they go out on assignment? Because if they don't have this kind of training or education awareness building, the company's at risk, the company brand, the company reputation, not to mention the employee's career.
Yeah, I think Philip could probably answer that far more adequately than I can. But certainly more companies are becoming aware of it, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily as thorough as they could be.
Mm.
Yeah. Carolina, do you see that? Are companies hiring you to give the spouse and the family lessons as much as the employee, or is that not done? Is that too intrusive?
As far as the companies I work with, they do provide training for the spouses and the kids too.
Mm.
Good news. Yeah. Joseph?
Yeah, I'm not always sure from my observation, and it is it's not as detailed as certainly again Philip would be aware of, but certainly I'm not convinced that spouses and certainly the children take it on board beforehand. Children tend to be adaptable once they get there. But I've come across so many instances, and again, it's apocryphal. I don't have a detailed survey of it, but from conversations, I've come across so many instances where the expats stay together and they certainly don't integrate, but they often don't even meet the locals other
Yeah,
than perhaps having servants.
exactly.
Yeah. Joseph, are you going to show any slides?
I think John,
I think
Terry, I
John
don't know if
is,
you could see it. I see John raising his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't notice.
That's
No,
okay. I just wanted to thanks, Philip. Yeah, I just wanted to throw out, having worked in the government side of things and specifically in the military early on when they traveled a lot overseas, there was not too much training before we went over. Especially when I was in the Navy on the ship, we would get a little State Department issued port guide, a little tiny booklet that would give us some tips on cultural things we needed to concern ourselves with, and maybe even a local map of the area. And that was about it. So I actually would do presentations on the ship's television system and the radio system to prepare people as we got into new ports. But there wasn't a lot of extensive training. Now, when people were being assigned overseas, there was a little bit more, but mostly it was again focused on the service member or whoever the employee was rather than on their families. I will switch that with the State Department. If you're a State Department employee and you're being transferred over, their whole family does get training, but in other agencies, not necessarily as much. So it's really interesting that this topic was brought up because that was something that was always of a concern when we went into different countries. And I also noticed, Joseph, I think you're the one who mentioned that, or maybe it was Phil, mentioned that when expats come into an area, they tend to kind of stay together in their own little cultural groups. And I find that happens also with people coming from other countries to the United States.
yeah,
And that was especially true with military families, especially groups from the Philippines or whatever. The Philippine spouses would have a tendency to stay together and speak Tagalog and not really blend into the local community. And one of my earliest literacy students, I taught literacy for adults who couldn't read. She was from the Philippines. She had gotten married to an American Marine. They came to the United States. She stayed within her little cultural group and didn't really get out there too much. And she realized whenever her husband was on deployment, she couldn't really function because she couldn't read
yeah,
anything in English in the United States. And so, she finally decided to reach out and get outside of her little local cultural community and blend in. And that's when she started making real progress. So I think we have a tendency to want to stay together, that little safety zone, but we really don't experience the world and get out there and blend into our new environment until we get out there and open ourselves to the culture.
yeah,
Joseph, it's a mental health issue, isn't it?
absolutely it is. Absolutely, because like we know from psychologists' reports that we've actually over the last few years, we know there was massive disruption anyway, but we know we're dealing with effectively a pandemic of loneliness, regardless of whether we're moving from culture to culture. But when we move to a different culture and then we don't adapt ourselves and we don't do the preparation, we're again, we're asking for trouble. We really are.
mhm,
And so many people are still fearful of mingling with whatever the new culture is. Don't speak the language. Are they looking at me strangely? What do they think of me? All that stuff that goes on in people's heads, and it just gets in the way of actually living and properly integrating. And we don't even have to integrate fully, but as if we make the effort to learn the language, to learn the culture, it just makes life so much easier.
yeah.
This has been a great show for me. Thank you very much for participating in this. Please come back and do more. And give me feedback privately and say, hey, Ed, shape up or do something different or whatever. Okay. Wear my white glasses instead of these blue ones. So, anything at all. Oh, you don't want this. I was going to show a boardroom scene, but I thought this might be very interesting.
Is Joseph still going to present some stuff?
Yeah, I can
Yes,
do
what?
it.
Yeah, please do that.
Okay, thank you. Do I have permission to share them?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, let me just find it here.
I don't know how to do it, but I'm watching you guys do this, and so someday I'm going to try to do it myself.
Well, we have to hope that technology complies, which it doesn't always do. So I've
There
just
we are.
excellent. I've just put 4 simple slides together. 3 of them have quotes, and one is just an image. And I just want to talk in very general terms about conversation, particularly when we're getting into, as it is today, dealing with people from different cultures, different backgrounds. And we so often come from the perspective of assuming we know what's right, assuming our perspective is shared, assuming that we're fitting in. And they are some of the great illusions that we can carry. So the fact is, we have, no matter where we are, no matter what our position in life, no matter what our role is, no matter what the culture is, we have a limited perception of the total reality. We're not capable of understanding everything, which is probably a great mercy in itself, but we only have a limited perspective, and we see the world from our perspective rather than necessarily the way other people do. So getting out of our own way, getting out of our own head is one of the essential ingredients in successful communication, period, no matter where we are, no matter who we're looking to communicate with. This is one of my heroes, the late Carl Sagan. And Carl Sagan, for me, represented so many positive qualities. But I love this quote in particular. I don't want to believe, I want to know. And if I believe I'm right before the conversation starts, I'm limiting my capacity for understanding. I'm limiting my capacity for real communication and for developing whatever my perspective is, for broadening my comprehension, for learning how other people operate, how other people think, how they behave. So getting caught up in belief is one of the most limiting things we can possibly do to ourselves and in terms of our impact on others. I love this quote from Einstein. It's attributed to him. Whether he actually said it or not, I don't know, but it's attributed to him. And I love the humility of it. And again, curiosity. It's one of the things I've had to learn because I wasn't always as curious as I needed to be. And I've certainly in my younger years, I had numerous conversations which flared up and where I ended up frustrated, the other person ended up frustrated, and in some cases, relationships just disintegrated. And I had to learn to be curious. So one of the underestimated skills for communication is listening. And we're not just talking about listening to the words, we're listening for how people speak. We're listening for tonality. We're listening for what people don't say. Irish people are certainly on this island, we're well known for tonality, where we can use words that appear to be very positive, but they have a very negative meaning. For example, you might say, "Yeah, right," but Irish people are known for saying, "Yeah, right," which means, "No, I do not believe a word you're saying." So if you're ever coming to Ireland, be conscious of tonality because it communicates so much. And it communicates so much more than the words that are spoken. And again, going back to the importance of trust, if I demonstrate genuine curiosity, even if somebody's viewpoint is diametrically different to mine, if I demonstrate genuine curiosity, it creates the possibility for communication, the possibility, not the inevitability, but the possibility of real communication. And one final slide. This is the Golden Bridge from Da Nang in Vietnam. And this goes back to the symbol, or the symbolism of this goes back to the very ancient classic, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, famous Chinese general, where he said that always, if there's disagreement, always create a golden bridge for your opponent to retreat. So if we have disagreement for whatever reason, whether it's in our culture or another culture, if we attack and if we criticize, we're closing doors. But if we can agree to disagree and again get the tonality right, again, it creates the potential for future communication. So that's me. Thank you.
Bravo, everybody. Thank you, Joseph.
Can I just comment on a few things? Joseph, thank you very much, because I like all those quotes, and everything that I have read about Einstein, he did say that particular quote. And in fact, what you have done with that, and also with that particular quote and with the Sun Tzu illustration, those are some of the principles that lay the groundwork for true high CQ development. I mean, and so I've being curious, and because then you'll want to learn about other people and other cultures. You don't go in saying that, well, I've been in this company 20 years, and therefore everything that I know, I'm going to come over there to this other country and I'm going to show you everything that I know, and this is the right way to do it, as opposed to trying to understand something about how people are viewing the local market and how they're doing things, and what can you do differently that can cause you to take a leap from where you are now to where you want to go. So, and the piece around I feel that there are so many things that when I look at our this country in the United States, I think that there are a lot of things that we could be doing, around those principles that you have laid out. So that way we develop much stronger global relationships, than what I think is what I think we're laying the framework for, quite frankly. But I think that I really like how you positioned all of those pieces, and I certainly would like to hear more about this at another time.
Yeah. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you for joining the show, all of you. It's great. And have a good one. I'll be getting back to you with the links, hopefully later today. It might be tomorrow.
And can I
I
say
come?
one?
Yeah.
No, please, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments.
Please.
Joseph, you hit on tonality, and I know this is a key thing. That's something that I focused on quite a bit. We don't realize sometimes the same words can have a dramatically different meaning based on where we put the emphasis. Like I could turn around to you and say, hi Joseph, you look nice today. And the implication might be that of all the people here, you're the only one who looks nice. Or it could be just a compliment. You look nice today, right? Or I might say to Phil, I might say, you look nice today. And so what's that implication? Well, he looks good, but maybe he smells bad. I don't know. Right. Or I could say to Ed, I might say, you look nice today. That same four words, but now it's kind of creepy, right? Or I can say to Carolina, you look nice today. And it's just the implication could be anything. So it's just the tonality and how we emphasize things, and Joseph, I know you know this is called paralanguage. It's all that emphasis that just the same words can have a dramatically different meaning. And that's just within the English language, let alone when we're doing cultural or language barriers between us. The other thing I wanted to comment on before we wrapped up is that several of us have talked about the importance of trust and being able to trust leaders. And I want to say that trust is a two-way street. And if you have to trust each other. So the leader has to also trust the people who work for him, that they're going to do what needs to be done. The other piece of that is when we go into other cultures, we have a tendency to, like you had pointed out, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. We automatically think that our perspective is not just different, but better than those that we're communicating with. And so the real challenge there, if you're going to develop trust, is you've got to trust that they understand their situation better than you do. And that is the real key of all of this, right? We've got to offer trust if we're going to be trusted. And those are just the 2 points I wanted to hit on before we wrapped up today. Ed, I wanted to thank you for inviting me to this. Again, I learned so much every time you do these programs, which is why I complimented you ahead of time, because I knew this was going to be fantastic.
Come back more.
That's something
I'll
I
expect my
definitely
check in the mail. No, I'm kidding.
Right. Definitely something I get from Ed. And Ed, one of the things I want to take away from the presentations, I just feel that each of them, yeah, and including John's comments, just were the tip of an iceberg in terms of this. I mean, boy, there's so much more beneath it. I mean, if you did it, like if you did another session and then you say, is there, told each of us, is there something that you wanted us to, something that you wanted to say that you might want to elaborate on, that you think that people should know about that I didn't present? I mean, I would love to participate in that. And in fact, what I would probably do is to get some quotes. I have a number of quotes that I use in my book. And I would just put a slide up on 3 or 4 different, just like Joseph did. That's the learning. So I'm taking that as a learning experience in terms of presenting. I would use that and talk from that. I mean, I could talk a whole half an hour just as Joseph was doing, you know, just on a few of those things and bring out the points. So I'll think about that. That's the feedback that I would give you at that there's another session that would come from this.
Okay, Carolina. What's your suggestion to me?
And I very thankful for this opportunity. What you do, you bring people together. I'm transformed after this session. I love to hear John's comments about his experience overseas, and it was so important to me because I work with many families in these situations. And I had some insights of what I could be doing with them. Thanks, John, very much. And I love the share your fire on your tag. That's very important. Philip, I have so many questions. Like we could set maybe a coffee after this, and I would love to learn from your experience. I see that you have been in many, many places in the world. That's precious. That's precious. Joseph, love the quotations and the presentation, and also have so many questions to you. And I think that all of us, in a way, brought today what is very, very important, that is to connect, like to connect with people, regardless everything else. We need connection. We need connection. And thanks, Ed, for doing this.
Yeah, my cup is full. I came in maybe with a half cup, but my cup overfloweth from all of the things that I have learned in this session, which is great. As opposed to my cup is full and there's nothing else that I can learn from it.
There are so
No,
many people that look at life that way, isn't there? I
yeah.
actually had a boss yell at me and accuse me of lying on my resume because I asked to go to training. And she said, "I thought you knew all this stuff already." I said, "No, you've got to constantly learn. You have to go back for training all the time. You have to be open to learning." You know, my dad taught me early on. He said, "Learn something new every day." You know, don't waste the opportunity. There's so much in the world.
So a couple hours ago, Philip and I were on a program that didn't go
Real early
anywhere,
in the morning.
but actually it did. Ali was great. Ali Shami,
It let us hear.
and he was going to bring a business contact on the show as an introduction, but she she got on an airplane and went somewhere. And so we just wound up talking with each other and with no script and no organization. But it was
Sometimes that's the
fun.
best
It was
way.
fun. So,
Sometimes that's the best way when you come in without a script. You know, you
Mhm.
learn more because you have
Mhm.
that growth description. You don't go in there, you're not waiting for the other person to finish talking so you can say what you want to say. You're responding and listening and having a true conversation. That's where real growth happens, is in those unscripted open conversations. And that's another thing I appreciate about you and what you put together, Ed, with these programs,
yeah.
is you allow for a little bit of scripted stuff, but 90% of the learning comes from that unscripted interaction between us.
So I
So
hope you all
everything you have
shared
on.
your email or website. If you haven't, I'll be glad to circulate all that
Yeah, why don't you
later.
circulate it, and I'm on LinkedIn, so please, I'd like to connect with you.
That's great. That's great. So we have a series of it's called Hello Asia Pacific, and putting together the next one now. I'm making new contacts across that region. Um, and also trying to get more involved with people in India. It's more difficult than it should be for some reason. But and we also have an ongoing series. I think we've done 11 or 12 programs already about Latin America, LATAM, and Carib. Philip, I know you have deep experience in that region. So I'll be back to you on that.
Hmm. Definitely.
And there's a London, I'll be real quick here. There's a London guy, his name is Courtney, uh, and he and I met, I forget exactly how we met. It was about 5 years ago. Uh, and I invited him to, I don't know, I think we probably met at a pub somewhere, but I invited the guy to show up at my live meeting. It was held in this fancy area near Buckingham Palace. Um, not in the palace, but near it. But it was a very nice place. And we had about 100 people there, a live meeting. And so he came and he was impressed with what I was doing and being from California. And his company is FDI Alliance, Foreign Direct Investment Alliance. In other words, companies and countries investing across border, buying land, developing business, owning business. Uh, like, for instance, it turns out California is the #1 recipient of any foreign direct investment in the world. Um, and of course, the U.S., especially under the current administration, they're twisting arms to get companies and governments to invest to build in the U.S. So it's FDI. So anyway, Courtney, about 2 years ago, asked during COVID, actually, asked me to write an article about relocation. Uh, and so I did, and he published it. And since then, he's asked me 5 times to write different articles. And so he just published the latest one, and it had to do with why relocate here. And so he wanted my take within the US of some locations, just pick any, he said. So I asked one of my advertisers from many years, a moving storage company. We were at the SHRM convention, Society of Human Resource Management, earlier, about a month ago now, and it happened to be in San Diego. There were 27,000 people at that convention. And they had given me a press pass to walk around and interview people, meet people during the show, and then follow up and have interviews on my TV talk show with them about their experience at the SHRM convention, with the provision that I don't ask them to spend any money. And it's all going to be free. And if they want to hire me to give them PR on my TV talk shows, then I could do that and get paid. They didn't care, because that was individual stuff. Anyway, I'm in the midst of now doing that. So I told this guy, Courtney, that I was just there and I was doing this kind of thing. And he says, so the theme of this section that I'm putting together for the August edition, and it hasn't been published for the public yet, but I got an advance copy because I have a page in there. In fact, 2 pages. But he says, why relocate here? And so he said, I don't care what state or city you pick, just do it. And so I was walking through the exhibit hall and I ran into this guy who I've known for 25 years, but haven't been in contact since pre-COVID. It's almost 6 years ago now. So he says, you don't remember who I am, do you? I used to go to all your meetings in San Diego and LA. I said, oh, Chet. So I said, I got an idea for you, Chet. I want some help paying for live meetings so I could start up again, but I don't have enough money. So why don't you sponsor me? And we'll find a restaurant, and we'll buy the back room, and you pay for the food, and I'll put on a meeting, and you'll be the exclusive moving company in those sessions. And then we'll do TV shows to help promote it too. And you'll get all this publicity. But I want you to give me some help from around your country, around the US, where you have invested locations, about what makes one area a good place to relocate. Okay, and he agreed to do that. And so that he gave me all this technical information about Washington, D.C. area, about Dallas, Fort Worth, and Texas in general, and about California and some other place, no, north central US. And so I took it, refined it, and published it, and added some other conversation. And the governor in California office, very, very helpful to me. They gave me the latest information about FDI into California and all the stats. So I organized it and sent it off to Courtney, and they published it. And so the moving company I gave them an ad in that story. And so now they're going to go ahead and sponsor me in those live meetings in California during the fall. Long story, but it's all from making meetings work and asking people, or keeping in mind people's specialties from people who you meet along the way, and then finding a place to put that specialty to work for something else from which they would derive benefit, tangible benefit. And of course, I would too, and maybe someone else. This kind of a get together today is a perfect example, like some of the other shows too, whereby people coming together can find a way to do something together at another time by making the contact, by making it work. Long-winded, but I thought that might be interesting to you. And I'll share that foreign direct investment stuff with you later.
Fantastic.
Interesting. Just starting from nothing.
Yeah, until you have the conversation, you don't know what's possible.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Every conversation opens a door.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Take care, Ed. Thank
Thank
you for all of
you.
this.
Thank you.
Joseph, we'll catch up soon.